This is a Target. They sell furniture, groceries, and most importantly, mini brands. But another thing they sell are skateboards. Obviously, Target is not a skate shop, but is it ever okay to buy a cheap skateboard from a store like this? Even if it is your first skateboard or just for convenience? Well, let's just find out, shall we? A lot of skaters will tell you you shouldn't buy from a store like Walmart or Target or Amazon, but today I'm gonna show you why you shouldn't buy a skateboard from one of those stores. So I went to Target to buy one of these skateboards and I assumed that there'd be a few different boards I could pick from, but...
I guess I'm going with this one. Not much of a choice.
So I bought the one skateboard Target had for a whopping $20. And today we're gonna do a little scientific experiment. Today during our little experiment, I will be comparing this cheap Target skateboard to my complete setup. I made a full video about my current setup, so if you want more details about it, go check out that vid. But just as a quick refresher, here's what I'm currently using. I am currently rocking a Thank You skateboard with Tensor trucks, Spitfire wheels, and Reds bearings. Now keep in mind that my skateboard is very middle of the road. I don't spend a lot of money on expensive parts, so just think about that while you're watching this and remember that you could have a skateboard like this if you spend just a little extra cash and don't use any money ever on a Superstore skateboard. So here are the specs on the Superstore Target board. In case you were wondering, if you were dying to know what the specs were, here we go. I've got my handy dandy little cheat sheet here that was attached to the skateboard, which is a red flag already, but we're not gonna talk about that right now. So we've got a 31-inch skateboard, which is a red flag right off the bat because no one measures skateboards that way. We got an ABEC 3 bearings, which most cheap skateboard completes use those, so whatever, nothing special there. We've got a 4.75-inch colored composite trucks, which means absolutely nothing. And we have 53mm PU wheels. Yeah, I bet these wheels are PU, if you get what I'm saying. So those are the boards that we're comparing today. And before we jump in and start doing experiments on these bad boys, I just want to give you a couple other reasons why you should buy from a real skate shop. I say this in pretty much every video here on this channel, but I'm gonna say it again, you gotta support local skate shops. When you shop locally, you're helping skateboarding have a presence in your city. Now I get it if your city doesn't have a local skate shop, but you should still buy from a real skate shop, just do it online. If you want to know more about online skate shops, I'd recommend checking out my video where I reviewed the most popular online skate shops. Another reason you should buy from a real skate shop is because the skateboards that are sold in stores like Target, Walmart, and Amazon are made from super cheap materials, and that will be clear to you in just a couple minutes. You shouldn't buy these cheap skateboards because they are actually low-key dangerous. They are made from such cheap materials that they could literally snap at like any given moment, and you're not gonna want that. You're gonna want something that you can trust and rely on. Because these skateboards are so cheap, they're gonna break easily and you're gonna just have to buy a new skateboard anyways. If you buy a good skateboard from the start, it's gonna last way longer than any cheap skateboard will. But let me show you why you shouldn't buy these cheap skateboards. They say that first impressions are everything, and my first impression of this cheap Target board was that I didn't like it. Here's a fun little tip. If you ever buy a skateboard and it has plastic wrapping around it, that is an immediate red flag. The plastic wrapping on these boards is a huge pain to take off, especially because for some dumb reason, they put the plastic wrapping underneath the trucks. This makes it literally impossible to get all the plastic wrapping off the skateboard unless you take off the trucks. And you know your boy ain't wasting his precious time on God's green earth taking trucks off a Target board. I also noticed right away that there's this plastic guard on one of the wheels, and at first I was like, I have no idea what that thing's for. And then it dawned on me that it's to prevent people from taking the skateboard and skating around in the store. Which made me think that if you skateboard in the dairy section of a store, is that called shredded cheese?
Hey Z-Boy, this is your conscience speaking, here to tell you that that joke wasn't funny. Bye!
Anyway, to get this little plastic guard off the wheel, you had to take off the entire wheel, and that is also just a huge pain, especially if you're a new skater. Because if you're a new skater, you're gonna have to go find some tool to take off the wheel, and you may not even know what tool you're looking for. If you had 4 of these plastic guards, you can make your own Target branded skater trainers. Which obviously don't do that because that means you would have to buy 4 of those terrible boards, but just a thought I had. I noticed another red flag right after I removed the plastic wrapping from the skateboard, and I think it would be better if I just showed you my reaction.
Hold up. I'm pretty sure this isn't even grip tape. I think this is just paint. I think they just painted over the top of this board.
But yeah, we'll talk about the grip tape here in a minute, if you can even call it grip tape. The last thing I wanted to bring up in these initial thoughts was the graphic. You know it's a cheap board when they didn't even spend the 2 extra seconds to make sure the graphic was flat before they pressed it. I mean, there's bubbles all over this thing. In fact, there were so many bubbles on this graphic, I could peel away the graphic with minimum effort. If the graphic on the board is already peeling before you even set foot on it, it's probably a cheap skateboard. Okay, so now let's do a wheel test. With this, I mainly want to just show you how bad these wheels are in this skateboard, and I think that's pretty clear with the spin test I did. So for the spin test, I took what I thought was the fastest wheel on both of these boards, and then I spun them each 3 times, and I picked the longest spin out of those 3 attempts. And here are the results. As you can see, my Spitfire wheel spun for like 5 times longer than the wheels on the Target skateboard. Now again, keep in mind, I use Bones Reds bearings, and these are very affordable bearings. Again, just spending a little extra money on something as simple as your bearings will take you far, literally, in skateboarding. I also gave both these boards what I'm calling a little push test. So what I did for this is I gave each of these boards a little push with equal power to see how fast they went and how far they went. And as you can see, my personal complete board went so far it hit the fence and then had to stop. And the Target board made it like halfway to the fence. The problem with having bad wheels and bad bearings on your skateboard is that it requires you to push not only harder, but more often, and that just makes skateboarding become a chore. So yeah, in conclusion, the wheels and the bearings on this board are stinky. And that alone should be a reason why you shouldn't buy one of these boards from like Target, Walmart, or Amazon. But I've got more to complain about, so let's move on. Okay, so now let's talk about the trucks on this Target board. Now, trucks typically are made of metal, and that's for a variety of reasons, but the biggest reason is durability. You're gonna need your trucks to be able to take a lot of hits. The trucks on this Target board are made of plastic. I'm sure that if you use these trucks even slightly aggressively for a couple days, they would snap. The last thing you want is to be riding really fast on your skateboard and your trucks just snap underneath you. On a side note that is related but also kind of isn't related, for some reason these trucks were like so loose right out of the packaging. The trucks on this Target board are the loosest trucks I've ever ridden, and I gotta tighten them up because I ain't dying on no Target board. The most frustrating thing about this cheap skateboard is the combination of bad wheels and bad trucks. There was several times when I was testing this board that the wheels would just grind to a halt because the bearings were so bad. And on top of that, the trucks were so flimsy and cheap that it caused a wheel bite every single time I landed a trick. The combination of having bad trucks, wheels, and bearings made even landing the simplest tricks impossible. Even if I was lucky enough that the wheels wouldn't stop the second I landed a trick on the ground, the trucks would bend, cause me wheel bite, and then I would fall off the board anyway. And that's the thing, a skateboard that is this bad makes skateboarding not fun at all. I was getting legitimately frustrated when I was testing the skateboard because I was doing everything correct, but the board was so cheap that it was constantly making me fall. And that's a big point I'm trying to make with this video. You can go and buy a cheap skateboard from Target, Walmart, or Amazon, but it's gonna show you the worst side of skateboarding. These types of cheap skateboards make skateboarding so stressful, which is the complete opposite of what skateboarding is supposed to be. So now I just want to give some overall thoughts on this cheap skateboard and some additional red flags I noticed. What I always think is funny about cheap skateboards is you can literally tell how cheap they are just by the sound they make when you drop them on the ground. You can easily tell just by the sounds of the Target skateboard that it is made of cheap plastic and hollow wood. Like, it's wild to me that even this skateboard sounds cheap. So I'll be honest with you, riding around on this Target skateboard is straight up not a good time. I wish there was some kind of cool technology where I could show you how it feels to ride this cheap skateboard and then hop over to my complete, because the difference is night and day. But we don't have that technology yet. At least I don't think we do. Elon Musk? Do we have it? This Target board is so cheap and slow and terrible that after I was riding around on it for like half an hour, I jumped on my complete and instantly fell because I was just not used to it moving that well. No joke, if you rode both of these boards blindfolded, you could easily tell which one is the better skateboard. Even if it was your first time stepping on a skateboard, I guarantee you would be able to tell which one was the cheaper one. It's that easy. Like I said earlier, this board is cheap and hollow. In fact, it was already chipping after just 1 day use, and I only skated it for like an hour. If you want a comparison, I've been riding my Thank You Complete for like a month, and there's not a chip in sight. Also, remember when I said that I thought the grip tape was literally just paint? Well, after riding around on it for like an hour, I am almost 100% positive it is just paint. I mean, sure, technically it got the job done, but I was still slipping around way more than I would if I just had real grip tape on the board. Again, this is another reason why these cheap skateboards are so dangerous. You're not even really secure on it when you're riding around. It is really a shame that this cheap Maple Skateboards brand can't even shell out the couple extra bucks for real grip tape. I mean, that just shows that they're really only in it for a quick buck. From top to bottom, it is just a complete disaster. I hope now you can see and understand why you should never buy a cheap skateboard from Walmart, Amazon, or Target. I understand as a new skater, you may not want to spend a ton of money on a new skateboard, but trust me, if you're able to shell out just a little extra cash, you're gonna have such a better experience. You can get a complete skateboard from a real skate shop like Tactics.com for like 75 bucks. Of course, $75 is a bit more than the $20 I spent on this Target board, but it will be so worth it. Trust me, that Target board is gonna wear out so quickly that you're gonna have to buy a new board shortly after you start using it. So technically, in the long run, you're actually probably saving money if you just buy a complete from like a real skate shop right off the bat. Again, buying a real skateboard from a real skate shop is gonna give you such a better experience with skateboarding. So what is my final review on this cheap Target skateboard? And as always, have fun, good luck, and keep shredding the gnar.